Welcome to the Verdin Sports Show. We're here with another weekly stream. We're going to break down LSU football, college football playoffs, and a little bit of NFL football with some crazy things happening today that we just have to cover. The transfer portal is heating up for all of college football. Sure, you got Deion Sanders taking over Colorado by storm. He's getting guys in left, right, and center. He's also dropping guys off. You got LSU. Some unfortunate things happening, some fortunate things happening. We're going to go ahead and break all that down for you today on this weekly Sunday stream. But first things first, um, the quarterback situation in LSU is kind of murky. And when I mean murky, it's not like we don't have a guy. It's not like we don't trust the guys in the room. It's more along the lines of if we're going to give the guy we gave the shot to this year another shot again. It's not like this year was horrible. It's not like this year was in shambles. There was a lot of confusion early on, but it kind of got, the wrongs got righted rather quickly. Mike Denbrock's a rather professional coordinator, and Joe Brady's a pretty good mind in and of itself to have on that coaching staff. So the problems that arose with Jaden Daniels and with that offensive scheme, learning a new offense rather quickly, those type of things were fixed quick. They were addressed, but the offensive line struggles shown through the injuries, even in Jaden, that's shown at times. The SEC title game, for instance, you see him pregame limping around. So those type of things make you wonder, was this the best Jaden we've seen yet? Can he do more things? But then you got Garrett Nussmeier coming in, showing flashes of greatness, doing great things. And that makes me wonder, do you give the young buck a shot? Do you finally give him his first start in the bowl game, see where he goes from there, make the decision off that? If Jaden isn't 100%, do you even risk putting him out there? Do you risk his health going forward? And quite frankly, this is still speculation at this point, as Jaden could any day now declare for the NFL draft. That decision, I'm sure, is being, examined with a fine-tooth comb with JD5 and his team. But you got several guys that, we expected to declare, such as B.J. Ojolari, Mekhi Garner, Jay Ward. They've already made their decision public prior to the bowl game. Sure, they're still going to play, but it's those type of things that make you wonder, is that going to influence the decision around them? Is he going to be like, man, my guys are going to get paid, let me go join them? The NFLSU push is strong, and what better time now for a quarterback to act than after a SEC championship appearance where, quite frankly, nobody thought he'd be in. Some people didn't even think he'd be in the starting role at LSU. But, fast forward a couple months later, you got talks of Jaden Daniels being the best mobile quarterback in the country at times, whether it be after the win at Ole Miss, after the win at Alabama. He was breaking records, school records, and he was catching eyes all over the country. So those type of moments are going to make Brian Kelly and that staff sit and think about who they're going to pick. But with the way Nussmeier has shown out and grown, I think, I'm not going to say all signs point to going with him, but my personal opinion is we've seen what this team can do. A lot of things are going to change, and there will have to be some adjustments in a sense where we're going to lose some guys in some key areas that might make leadership in some areas change. Some people are going to have bigger roles, and if you're gonna go under a transition like that, especially one where you're taking the younger guys like Harold Perkins, like Mason Taylor, and giving them more responsibility. Look at Will Campbell. Look at Emory Jones. These guys are, taking the torch early, right when they walk through the doors. So, do you really want to keep a guy like Jaden Daniels, who's going to go into a senior year, who's already got, he's kind of broken some of those bad habits, and he's kind of fixed the things he's needed to fix. But at the end of the day, Brian Kelly could have a Garrett Nussmeier who's only known, quite frankly, his scheme since last year. His starting chances were a lot slimmer. Now he's more incorporated in the offense. In between the years, he's a fresh mind, and I think that holds value in the quarterback room. Not to mention, Nussmeier's arm ability could have helped us in several situations this year. You got a lot of times where a throw needs to be made here, or a little bit tighter window, and ball was overthrown here. Those type of moments you can revisit and think, man, what could have happened? But also, you got people on the other side saying that Nussmeier's decision making had to grow, and that maybe he would have thrown interceptions that prevented us from being in certain situations. But look, that holds weight, and I can see where people are coming from in that instance. But just how I see it, I think you can't go wrong with a confident pocket passer, especially in the SEC, where you need to be able to have multiple dimensions and aspects to your game. You got to be able to run the football. You got to be able to push the ball vertically. You don't always want people walking in on Saturday knowing what you're going to do. We knew Jaden Daniels was going to go out there, get active, get some RPOs, quarterback design runs, and if he can't get an alley out, he might throw one down the field. We knew that for a while. Jaden's first tendencies weren't always get the ball to our skill player in space. You saw Malik Neighbors after the title game say how it kind of seemed like Nuss trusted him to go make the big plays and to show that ability off. Not saying Jaden didn't trust him, but Jaden didn't give him that ability. Jaden at all times. He did it here and there, but it's just one of them things that is that something you're going to be able to coach out of a player? Is that something that you're going to be able to go forward with confidently next year and knowing you're going to be playing a team like Georgia again, knowing that the ante's going to be up? It always is in the SEC. You're playing guys who are learning from what happened in the last meeting and going and get their comeuppance. I mean, look at what we had did to Ole Miss, to Bama, to guys like Auburn. I mean, there's several situations where we kind of, even Arkansas, we had a chip on our shoulder. We walked back into their trap, took over it, had to go home, business trip, kept things nice and simple. I don't I don't think we want to keep, man, I don't want to say keep it one dimensional, but we got to sit here and try to just add more wrinkles and more layers. And I think the best way you do that, if you're Brian Kelly, if you're Mike Denbrock, is by making Nussmeier the starting quarterback. I think that having that big arm, having that calm, collected mind behind center in the pocket, making the decisions at all times is the way to go. And if you look at Nussmeier's mobility and his legs, he's still quick. I mean, look at the play where he threw the touchdown to Dre Jenkins. He can get out when the pocket collapses, and he can make a calm, cool, collected throw. I think that Nussmeier's got the cannon on him, and I think he's got the coaching staff behind him. The bowl game will be a big test for number 13, though. Another interesting thing, if Jaden would leave, I wonder if Nuss would consider going back to number 5. Number 5 was Nussmeier's first number during his freshman year, his redshirt freshman year. But moving into the season after his sophomore year, he donned 13. Jaden came in and took the 5 from him. It'll be interesting to see. But talking about Brian Kelly, his recruiting, and what I think should be his transfer target going into next season. As we addressed earlier in the stream, Jay Ward, Mekhi Garner declaring for the NFL draft. So that'll put some big holes in an already kind of depleted area. The cornerback room, the safety room, we need some depth there already as it is. But now that we lose 2 veterans, it's going to kind of, put some stress on Matt House. So going forward, you got the Denver Harris situation. I think that that's something important to monitor. He already has played SEC level competition. He was the 4th ranked cornerback in his 2022 class. And it's ironic to me that some of these A&M cats are already wanting to roll out of College Station. And you see things like this with the NIL era in a sense where players have more mobility, players have more confidence, and colleges have better chance of reaching someone now and getting their attention that they might not have before because money talks at the end of the day. But with guys like Denver Harris, he might have went to A&M, saw how things unfolded. And I mean, who in their right mind would want to stay there? It doesn't look like they're going to be playing the elite level of college football in the next couple of years like he expected them to be. And at this day and age, in college football, you got to win to be noticed, especially as a prospect, especially at a skill position like a cornerback. You need to be in the limelight at all times. And sure, that's a lot of pressure, but if this kid's willing to take it, I think that we shouldn't blink an eye at that. And I think we should take advantage of it in a sense where he's already tried and tested. He's already been in these situations. He's already been in the thick of it. LSU has shown, some interest in him. So that's a good sign there. Another one that's going to be interesting for me is Mason Cobb. Cobb was the leader of Oklahoma State's defense. He racked up a team-high total of 96 tackles. 13 of them were tackles for losses. That linebacker room is looking good right now. You got Harold Perkins. You got DeMario Tolan. 2 young players who, like we said earlier, are getting that respect and getting those keys to the program at a young age, which is very good. Hats off to Matt House and Brian Kelly for being able to recruit so successfully and to be able to recruit so detailed in a sense where they got killers off the rip. Now, though, with the transfer portal, like Kelly said, you're going to want to target the areas that you need the most depth at and that you kind of saw issues with last year. We want to stop the run a little bit better. I mean, look at A&M. Look at Georgia. We had times where the run was getting out of hand. When the run gets out of hand, the play action can set up, the pass gets better. Just everything seems to kind of snowball. So I think linebacker will be a good area to target after you get those cornerbacks down. And quite frankly, I would love to see a big running back come in, big time running back. It's always good to have those skill positions covered. You never know. We had times where, we got Josh Williams down and we are getting our rotation all year was a good mix of Josh Williams, Armani Goodwin, and John Emery. Noah Kane was reserved for special teams, and he came in big moments like against UAB or even at times against A&M when we needed him most. So those type of plays are big, but with Armani Goodwin going down with the hamstring injury, those are the moments you want to prepare for. When someone goes down unexpectedly for weeks at a time, weeks on end, they're not able to answer the bell for whatever reason, to answer the count, can't get to their feet, and it's going to pose problems for that scheme. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're limited, and I think Coach Wilson is a pretty smart guy. He knows how to get guys in. He's one of the leading efforts in recruiting, such as Joe Sloan, the quarterback coach. These guys have got a good structure out in front of them, so I'm sure that Brian Kelly, he's putting one foot in front of the other as we expected after this loss. He's kind of picking the pieces up, using it as a learning experience. But most importantly, he's kind of using it to symbolize how quickly things can change. Because in 1 year, we weren't expected to be in the college football playoff. That's rough. If you think LSU had to live and die by being the 4th seed, then I mean you just got overly high expectations. Let's be real. We were the worst team in the SEC West, statistically, record-wise, whatever you want to look at. The worst team in the SEC West in Coach Argeron's last season was LSU. In Brian Kelly's first year, the best team in the SEC West was LSU. So that turnover in and of itself is impressive. But the SEC championship appearance signifies that the process is working. Brian Kelly has got the gears moving. He's got what it takes. He's shushed the haters. Oh, he can't win big games. Well, explain Alabama. Explain Ole Miss. Explain the road win in Auburn and Florida. There's big moments. Sure, they've had, rough patches, but all teams do in year one. And if you don't think, if you don't think Brian Kelly deserves a little bit of slack, I hate to break it to you, but that's going to be a problem within yourself. I feel like Brian Kelly he's proven himself at this level, and he's had a pretty good, calm level of understanding about the game, whether it be the answers he gives in the press conferences or just how he handles a loss, how he handles different things. Hats off to Brian Kelly in year one to get confused and to be exhausted and to just keep week after week after week, pushing the pace, exceeding everyone's expectations. He said it himself. It's a challenge every week to keep yourself in the fight. Every single week is a test in the SEC, and he was able to accomplish those tasks pretty successfully in my eyes. Another big moment for LSU, of course, Kayshon Boutte returning. It's a big, 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 big push for LSU and for their guys. Everyone expected Kayshon Boutte to go to the NFL draft, get drafted within top 15, top 20. This season didn't unfold the way Kayshon thought it was going to unfold. It was a little slow start. Sure, he had a lot of things going on off the field. And, week one wasn't exactly the type of performance he expected to have. So the roadblocks started coming early for Kayshon on his road to the NFL draft. And I don't know if that's going to be part of the decision of why he wanted to come back or if he saw the potential in the team and thought, hey, I got another year eligibility. Why not try it out? Why not chase that chip and keep our eye on the prize, national championship? But, with things like this, it's great for Coach Cortez Hankton. It's great for Brian Kelly for two things. One thing, it's going to help build confidence, and now recruits around the country and transfers around the country are going to see that not only does LSU mean business, but LSU stacking up the guns. The people on the inside are willing to turn down a check and a lifelong dream in the NFL to stay and try to keep building the culture and keep building a successful program at Baton Rouge. So that's number one. That's probably the most impressive thing. Number two, what's going to happen is guys are going to be in a situation where like Coach Cortez Hankton, where now they got talent management, they got load management. You got to keep the personalities in the locker room not necessarily binded to one common goal, but just at least on that same track. Because not everyone's going to think the same. Not everyone's going to act the same. Not everyone's going to interact the same. Coach Kelly said it himself best. How everyone at some point, sooner or later, going to rub you the wrong way. It's just about how you're able to move past that and how you're able to keep everything business when you're in those doors. So with Coach Cortez, he's keeping Kayshon in, who knows he's NFL ready. Kayshon knows he's able to be at the next level. Now you got to make sure that Kayshon's bought in and listening to the coaches and accepting criticism, getting the scheme in, as he's done all year. Kayshon did a great job of that, and it's just up to him to be able to continue that next season, keep that standard, keep that veteran leadership mentality that we think not only a number 7 should hold, but Kayshon should hold. And, he did, like I said, did a good job. Him and Dre Jenkins in that wide receiver room did a good job all year of establishing that culture. But in a situation where Kayshon's coming back, you just want to make sure that he's in the right mindset going into next year so we can start this thing off hot and get it going in the right way, get his career going in the right way as well. So that road to the NFL draft next season is a lot smoother and a lot easier. Of course, wide receiver room took a hit. Good friend of the show, Jack Bech, enters the transfer portal. Now, this comes as one of those things, like, you hate to lose a great player, someone who's dedicated to the LSU way of life, someone who, as in his statement said, it was probably the hardest decision. He had an LSU in his mind his whole football playing career. But this type of talent, he's going to have offers everywhere. I mean, look at before he was at LSU, he had offers from TCU, UT, Notre Dame, Vanderbilt. He was getting looked at by a lot of colleges. So I think that teams are going to be chomping at the bit for someone like Jack, someone you could utilize in 2 different ways. You can play him at a tight end. You can play him at the wide receiver. He's versatile. He'll go all over the field for you. It's unfortunate how things played out this year. Freshman year, he leads the team in receptions, all SEC freshman. We get him on the show twice during the offseason and kind of, laid out the perfect blueprint for Jack Bech and how he'd like his career to go. And it's going to be one of those things where now it's a moment of adversity, but he's the perfect person for this to happen to because he's got that mindset, he's got that resiliency, and he's got that bounce back ability. So I have no doubt that he's going to put that right foot forward, get the right decision, and start his career. Best wishes to our friend of the show. It sucks to see a great talent go, but it'll be exciting to see another team pick him up, utilize him, and put him in the scheme the way that I think he should have been implemented in, and he'll be able to flex some muscles that he was wanting to flex. The defensive line, we're gonna have Buddy Mason Smith returning finally. It's been a long awaited return. We're going to play Florida State. Jordan Travis is staying, so that's going to make things interesting because Jordan Travis was a pretty big part of that Florida State LSU contest. So I could imagine the game plan for Florida State is starting now when you hear that type of news. Matt House is going to start figuring out ways to improve on the first week of this year, to improve on what happened, and to be able to kind of cross some T's and dot some I's when Jordan Travis is in. I believe it's Orlando that they're going to be in. So Orlando's going to be our spot of our last game and our first game of next year, which is pretty ironic. The boys better get comfortable down there in Florida. The defensive line, they're going to take a hit. You got Jay Roy possibly declaring. BJ, of course, declared. We're waiting on Ali Gay. If those 3 guys leave, Mason Smith is going to be the vet. He's going to be the guy. He's going to be the heart and soul, which I have full utmost confidence in him doing. It's just now you got Savion Jones and Quincy Wiggins has to step up and show that development. They've done great jobs of that in Mason's absence this year. I think going forward, though, the utilization of Harold Perkins, Demario Tolan will be key. We're going to see how they're going to be able to come off that edge and not necessarily attract some attention, but potentially create some more noise in that pocket and break some things down. So those areas that we're going to want to highlight are all going to be defensively focused. We want the cornerbacks to be hemmed in, like Donovan's saying in the chat. We want linebackers, stop that run, and we want to be able to support the trenches, whether it be offensive or defensive line. I think the lines have to be utilized. We got to get some meat up in the interior, make sure that these guys are ready to go so we can play that smash mouth LSU football. But moving forward, college football playoffs, It's gonna be interesting, man, because you're gonna have TCU play Michigan, and personally, I think that TCU's not a team that's just gonna I think roll over and get smashed, but they're gonna have trouble down the stretch when when the drum is being beat all game by a tough Michigan defense. I think that TCU is gonna have a hard time keeping up with that pace, hard time endurance wise. This is just a different look. The Pac-12 is not weak. Pac-12's not super depleted of talent, but the Big Ten's a big step up, especially when you're talking about Michigan. Look what they did to Ohio State's offense, and I think Ohio State's offense is light years better than TCU's. No offense to Max Duggan, but there's a lot more versatility. Yeah, the running back room in Ohio State's looking a little rough, and that's going to be my question mark for them going to play Georgia. But I think Michigan's shown that they're going to be able to hold teams down. Look at how many points they're allowing on average. 13. They're not even averaging full 2 touchdowns and 2 extra points. TCU averaging 40 points per game, sure, but Michigan's going to match that. And here's going to be the problem. If the offense for TCU is on par with Michigan's, but the defense is nowhere near, this is where defense is going to win championships in my book. This is where the defense is going to push the pace, create havoc, and maybe potentially see Max Duggan embarrass himself at a pretty big stage. A lot of people don't think TCU should be here. I think this is going to be a big moment for TCU to address the haters, address the situation, and go out there and perform. Moving on to Georgia and Ohio State, man, this will be a big one. This will be a big game. I think a lot of people are writing Ohio State off with how they played against Michigan. And I think it's just one of those games where maybe they just weren't ready. Maybe they just weren't prepared. I don't know. I don't know what happened in the game against Michigan, but I think that this is one of those things where you're going to have that short memory. You're going to have to walk in here and try to not really live in the past off of what happened and try to play and outperform it and come in with that whole, we got to right our wrongs thing. We got to go out and show we're better than that. I say forget about it. It's a new task, and it's a way harder task. Georgia hung 50 on us. Georgia hung 50 on LSU in the SEC title game. Stetson Bennett was doing trick plays. Stetson Bennett performed so well that he became a Heisman finalist. No disrespect to Stetson, had a great game, but I think that Georgia offense is almost better skill-wise than that Georgia defense, and the Georgia defense is number one in the country. So now what do you do in that situation when CJ Stroud, against a tough defense, has shown he has trouble making the throws, making the calculated moves, making the ins and outs, handling the pressure. And with that running back room not necessarily being banged up, but not 100%, it might be too tall of a task to climb for the Buckeyes. I'm not going to rule it out, but I think Kirby Smart and Georgia are building something crazy. It's looking hard to beat. I think the only team in this four-man race that could do it is Michigan. So hopefully we see that line up here. But moving on to the NFL football, Week 14, we're kind of seeing things a little bit clearer now as it comes to the playoff picture. We're kind of seeing things that we wouldn't expect, though, in a sense where you got teams like Tampa Bay who still have a shot. They're going to wind up probably getting a good run at that NFC South title. No one's going to be able to really, contest for that, but they get absolutely smashed on Sunday against the 49ers. Only 17 rush attempts for the Buccaneers. It's going to be interesting to look back on because Tom Brady had 55 pass attempts and he threw 2 picks. He was throwing roughly around 60-ish%. So, I mean, look, it could have been a lot worse. But that distribution's a little odd in my eyes. You're going to throw the ball almost 60 times and only run it 17 and you're down that much. Yeah, you don't want to run the clock out. And it happened, it happened early. I'm sure the points started stacking up. But with Deebo Samuel getting off the field, getting carted off, I think that, at some point, sooner or later, you should have took the shot. This wasn't a shootout by any stretch of the imagination, and this begs the question, can Tampa Bay even survive in the NFL playoffs? I don't know if they'll see outside the divisional round, but moving on, another NFC rivalry, I'd say. Lions beat Vikings. Is that going to be a resurrection of a rivalry? You got teams like Green Bay who normally smash people in the NFC North not showing up at all this year. So now you got teams like the Lions making some noise. Jared Goff, 69% pass completion, 333 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. How about that? I mean, look, Jared missed a big throw on Thanksgiving that kind of frustrated me because I was like, man, Jared had this, in Los Angeles, this great talent, great arm. He had the pieces to be the next Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen. He had the pieces to be the guy. And after a big loss, he wasn't able to get it back in the right direction. But maybe in Detroit, he's going to be able to keep doing things like this. Will they be able to get into the playoffs, make some noise, and potentially crack into the conference championship? No. I think that area will be reserved for teams like the Eagles, the Vikings. But talking about Philadelphia, they're storming along. I I think Jalen Hurts is probably one of the best gifts that Philadelphia could ever had. Because look at how the Carson Wentz situation ended. If you would have told me that Carson Wentz would, during that Super Bowl run, during that MVP push era, that he wouldn't finish the year, that they'd win the Super Bowl, but he wouldn't finish the year. Nick Foles would come in, save the day, and that he would wind up being gone, I wouldn't have believed you. I thought the Carson Wentz era was upon us. I mean, you had Barack Obama getting on stage, shouting him out. I think Jalen Hurts is about not as lucky as you can get in a replacement quarterback, but perfect timing. You got Jason Kelsey on the outs of his career, great center, even better, podcast personality. But Jason Kelsey on the outs of his career, debating on whether or not he should play. He keeps the heart and soul of that line that protects him, that protects Miles Sanders, that protects the pass for A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. These guys are hemmed in. These guys are talented. You got a lot of I'm not gonna say a lot of Alabama talent, but Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, they must have that connection. They must have that. They must have that chemistry. They must have that 1-2 punch ability that is going to lead them into the playoffs because these two guys have been on par. When AJ Brown's not there, Devontae Smith is right after him. I think that's probably going to be my favorites for leading out of the NFC. I think the Eagles probably don't have any competition left. Last year you could have begged the question. Honestly, the last couple of years, whether it be the Packers, the Niners, the Bucks, this year's a lot different. Jimmy G's hurt. Sure, we're not going to write off Purdy. He could do some things. Look what he did to the Bucks here, and Purdy has the Niners sitting at a pretty good spot in the NFL standings. If you look at the league standings, they are the sixth team overall. So that type of thing is promising in a sense where these guys are still on the door. They got Debo. Well, they had Debo. Hope Debo's going to be all right, but they got C-Mac. They got Ayuk. They got some guys who can, they got Kittle. They got some guys who I think they can trust to make big noise. But look at the Chiefs. Look at the Bills. Look at guys like, look, maybe even the Ravens with a healthy Lamar Jackson. These teams are going to be hard to guard. How do you put someone on Travis Kelce and then still be able to spy on someone like Patrick Mahomes who can get out? You seen against the Bucks in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs how Patrick Mahomes responds to pressure. So that's got to be your number one priority. But then when you got the box getting stacked, or when you got players dropping out of zones and going hit the QB, now you don't have the double teams over the Kelces, or the Jujus. There's going to be a lot of things that make people scratch their heads throughout these playoffs, and it's going to come down to who makes the most mistakes and how the coaches put these guys in the right situation in the clutch. These moments are always, it just can't get better with the NFL in a sense where they always know how to make things go down to the wire, and one team always knows how to wind up choking it. Sadly, the Packers NFC title game, we've done too much of that. Too much of that. So I'm glad that this year I'll get a little break on the heart and I can go ahead and watch these games detached from them. But we're going to move into the weekly segment, random ranking review. We're going to break down the NFL rankings this time because college football rankings are just, they're old news. I'm tired of blabbing about USC, blabbing about TCU, Tennessee, what have you. Let's move on to the NFL. Let's move on to something a little different, a little more exciting. So we're going to spin a number 1 through 10. And I'm going to break down, does this team deserve to be here? Do they not? Why not? What have you? So we're going to spin this wheel. We got number 1. The number 1 team in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles. So, without question, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFL. Just for the simple fact that the Bills are having trouble against guys in their division. The Jets got their number the first time. This time here to 1 possession victory. So those type of moments with Josh Allen make me wonder, are they going to be able to answer when they got foes like the Chiefs at the door? When the lights get bright, Josh Allen doesn't necessarily fade away, but he doesn't always consistently deliver. So that's going to be something to watch going forward for the Bills. I think that's why the Eagles will slide into that spot. Another reason I'm not going to trust Buffalo to be the number one team or the best team is because of that Von Miller news. Him being out for the year, that's a big blow. Big blow, because before the year, the reason they were jumping so high in the odds was because of that addition of Von Miller. So that it's kind of going to take the wind out of my sails for me on the Bills. Number one hype train. I got Eagles all the way. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Miles Sanders, big week. How can you stop them? This has been the Verdin Verdict. Thanks for tuning into the weekly stream. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, share button, and click post notifications so you never miss another upload. We got a pretty big stream coming up for you guys here soon. Big episodes. We're working on some things behind the scenes, so make sure y'all follow. Hit the links in the description to get us on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram. Whatever you use to get your daily sports news will be there every day. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your night. This has been the Verdin Verdin.